Alright, yeah, welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today we're going to be jumping back into a little bit more Alchemy, but just before I jump in to the games and the deck tech and all of that shenanigans, just a little bit of admin to mention. So before I went on holiday, I actually cancelled the membership program on the channel, mostly because I didn't know how long I was going to be gone for, and I didn't want to be charging you guys for content you weren't going to receive. But I just want to let you know that it is back up now, and for those that don't know, it exists as well. It's $3 a month. Completely optional, of course, and if you do end up paying that, you do help me out a great deal, and also get access to an additional video from me every single week from pretty much my favorite deck of the week, whatever it ended up being. So it could be Historic Brawl, could be Alchemy, could be Historic, whatever my favorite thing that I played in that week, I end up making an extra video for that, and that's available for members only. And then also you'll see the thank you message just after the deck tech. If you check that out, you'll get your name on there as well. And yeah, it's $3 a month, completely optional. I do really appreciate it. But anyway, moving on to that, now that I've done all of that shenanigans, we're going to be playing some Alchemy today. And we're going to be playing around with a deck I found on AetherHub, submitted by Dr. Ruckus. So I'll leave a link down to their AetherHub deck list in the description. But it just looked like a pretty sweet deck to me, so I figured we'd check it out today, because I don't really know. I've been taking like 2 weeks, something like that, off of Alchemy, so I don't really know what the meta looks like right now, so I'm probably going to be taking deck lists from around the globe for the time being, just so I can get the hang of this format, know what happens and things like that. There's also the fact that Wizards are going to change the format up again in like 2 weeks' time or something like that, so the format is subject to not be what I figure out it is. when I finally learn what this format is, it's probably going to change. So yeah, it seems a bit of a waste to make a rogue deck that may become obsolete, but here we go. Anyway, we're going to be playing around with this Izzet Hullbreaker Horror kind of combo list. It's primarily built around Geist Channeler, the alchemy card of the 2-mana variety. A 1/3, when it enters the battlefield, choose an instant or sorcery card in your hand. With mana value 3 or greater, it perpetually gains. This spell costs 2 less to cast. So we are an Izzet ramp deck, essentially, thanks to Geist Channeler. What we can do is we can target things like Seize the Spoils or Unexpected Windfall. If we cost reduce these by 2, they end up generating the same amount of treasures that we are spending to cast the spell. So that's going to allow us to dig through our deck, also produce cheap ways of ramping at that point as well, which is very nice. And something to note, it does give the card perpetual cost reduction, which means if we end up playing Lear down the line, that means the Seize the Spoils in our graveyard or the Unexpected Windfall in our graveyard still has that 2 cost reduction. So Lear can come down for 5 and play a Seize the Spoils for 1 mana, stuff like that. It's very useful. We could also do Divide by 0 as well, which is our counter spell of choice. We are a Lear deck, so we can't run counter magic, since Lear says spells can't be countered, but this is a remand of choice, and then we get to go into our learn board and get any of our wonderful additions there. So that's kind of like the idea. We are ramping into Hullbreaker Horror. This is our finisher, and it typically is the only thing you really need to finish the game. So it's 7 mana for a 7/8 with Flash. I'm sure most of you know what this is, but for those who don't, this spell cannot be countered. And whenever you cast a spell, you get to choose to either return a spell you don't control to its owner's hand. So when an opponent casts a spell before it ETBs, and while it's on the stack, we can play our instant speed Windfalls, our Iterations, our Spitefield Hazards, Fading Hopes, and we can return it to their hand before it resolves. We can also bounce a non-land permanent back to its owner's hand that's already in play as well. So basically, Hullbreaker Horror can sweep the board, and once we're churning through our deck with a Hullbreaker Horror in play, we will quickly empty the board so that there is nothing to stop us from hitting our opponent for 7 every single turn, maybe with the Hall of the Storm Giants to add some extra damage as a finisher. But yeah, as far as like the early game's concerned, our only ways of defending ourselves are Fading Hope, which bounces a creature to its owner's hand, and if its mana value is 3 or less, you get to scry one. We got Spikefield Hazards, which double up as a land as well, but deal 1 damage to any target, and can exile if it kills. And then the Divide by Zero, as we've mentioned, to bounce there as well. So we're going to be using those 3 cards to defend ourselves, but also we're going to have these Geist Channelers in play, because once they enter the battlefield and they've done their thing, they're actually just a 1/3 with no text box. So it's just a really nice blocker at that point. 3 toughness can stop a lot of things, and, you know, and just chump block in general. We've got Galvanic Iterations, which allow us to copy spells, and we can also flash it back for 3 mana as well. So again, if we have that Geist Channeler cost-reducing Caesar Spoils, then for 3 mana we can do Iteration Seize, and then we can draw 4 and create 2 treasures for 3 mana. We don't have to do the additional cost to cast on the copy of Iteration, so we only have to discard 1 card with Caesar Spoils if we make a copy of it with the Iteration. Same thing goes for the Unexpected Windfall in a nutshell. But again, Leah can be in play, and Leah can flash it back for 2 mana, which is nice and cute. But yeah, that's essentially going to do it for the deck tech portion of the video. If you do enjoy the deck tech and the gameplay, I'd really appreciate if you do hit that like button and subscribe, and leave a comment down below as well. I'd love to know what you guys are playing in Alchemy. I'm open to any kind of deck list suggestion. If you've got something that is out of the ordinary, so like not mono green, not Gruul Werewolves or whatever, if you've got something that's a little bit off meta that's been doing very well, be sure to let me know down in the comment section below. I'm looking for interesting deck lists to play around with, so if you've got something interesting, let me know, and there's a good chance that I might play it on the channel in the future. And yeah, without further ado, let's continue. This video is brought to you by the generous support of our wonderful patrons and channel members that you see here. If you'd like to support the channel and get access to cool content like sneak peeks, bonus videos, polls on future content, or access to a personal deck critique from myself every month, then hit the join button down below, or check out the Patreon link in the description. With all that said, let's get into the gameplay. Alrighty, we're on the play. We can hold up and turn 1 Spikefield Hazard, but I don't know if it does much good for us. Triple Iteration just basically means this hand is whatever we want it to be, so I think I'm just going to keep this one. I'm sure we'll do just fine with this. And yeah, I think we're going to lead with holding Spikefield Hazard, because we can. We can just go Mountain Pathway into Untapped Coast. So really not an issue there. Well, we probably wouldn't even go Untapped Coast, we'd be going Iteration looking for a land, most likely. So, Mountain, say go. That's our matchup of the day today. It is a white deck. Okay, well, Spikefield Hazard could be pretty good in this scenario. Geist Channeler is pretty dead in this scenario, but we can give it some fuel with 1 Iteration. No, we can't. I'm a liar. That's extremely unfortunate. Give me Leah to hand, Horror bottom, Spikefield Hazard trash. Yeah, I was really hoping for one of our 8 treasure generating spells. Caesar Spoils, Windfall, even Divide by Zero would have been fine. Lunak Veteran for our opponent. Are they skipping land drops here? They went land, say go, and now they've just done Veteran Cleric. Very suspicious. Right, well, we can't possibly whiff on an Iteration twice now, can we? Alright, that's pretty good. So, hand, bottom, exile. Play the Mountain, hold up in the Hazard. Probably gonna fire it off on the Veteran, but I want to see what they play first beforehand. No real rush to get that spell casted. Yeah, really need a 3 mana value card in our hand. Angel of Unity. So it is a cleric. It's not a cleric we can answer just yet. We've got Fading Hope, though. So maybe Fading Hope Geist Channeler is our turn. Although I guess this has an ETB of its own, right? It cares about casted party spells. So even though it has an ETB... Come on, deck. What are you doing? Alright, hand. Bottom. Exile. Stick that on blue. We're going to leave the Angel of Unity for now. Because we've not exactly been given a choice. There we go. Windfall now costs 2 mana. Four mana for our opponent. Hallowed Priest. Trigger the Angel of Unity, perpetually giving the Voice of the Blessed an extra power and toughness, and then another card in their hand. So they've got some big creatures here. But I should be on the verge of winning the game if my deck behaves. So I could do Iteration Windfall. Which I suppose I'm going to do. Advantage Iteration, Unexpected Windfall. Discard... I guess the Island, because the Geist Channeler can cost reduce a card for me. Draw 4. Very nice. And let's do... Geist Channeler. All of these very nice blockers. It doesn't particularly matter, but I guess I'll appreciate having a 1 mana Seize the Spoils in my graveyard. Might as well discard the spare Leer. I don't imagine I need 2 of them. Land and Iteration. Okay. And pass. We're getting to a good position. Opponent's got Pyre of Heroes, so they can pod any of these creatures into something else, but only at sorcery speed, so they can't react to me Fading Hoping a creature here. Yeah, I don't know why the all attack button wasn't just like turbo slammed. Not sure what they're concerned about. So I do want to Fading Hope one of them, and then just take 4, I think. So it gives me a Scry as well, so I can set up the top of my deck. I'm looking for Hullbreaker Horror at this stage in the game anyway. Iteration. Say no to that, I've already got one. Take the damage. Lear's a 3/4 as well, so... it's possible we can find a way of blocking. So that is 2-drop into Righteous Valkyrie. We're not too concerned about a Valkyrie. Got spare lands, so we can play lands with no trouble whatsoever. Could do Iteration into Seize the Spoils. Yeah, I guess that's fine. Let me just check this isn't... yeah, I can do this as many times as I want. It's not Lurrus. Alright, so I'm going to flash it back for 2 mana. Seize the Spoils. Discarding a mountain. Draw 4. Divide by 0 is quite a nice one. Spitefield Hazard's useful. I can go Windfall. Get rid of a mountain. And I think that'll do for my turn. I'll leave Fading Hope open to hit the Righteous Valkyrie here. So we'll get rid of Hall of the Storm Giants. Still not found our Hullbreaker horrors. We've got 30 cards, so all 3 of our Hullbreaker horrors are in the bottom half of our deck. Very typical. Got 2 chump blockers on the ground for the Hallowed Priest. I've got a Fading Hope to bounce the Valkyrie, and I'm not afraid to do it. Voice of the Blessed. So, do I Fading Hope now? It would give me a Scry, it would prevent 3 life gain, which is probably going to be relevant. Yeah, I think it's probably relevant. Bottom the land. Don't make me laugh, deck. They can turn one of these 2 into a Righteous Valkyrie as well. And if they've got another land, then they can Valkyrie. Which wouldn't necessarily be ideal. Just going to go with a Cleric. Okay. Bit of life gain. I think I will block Priest with 1 Geist Channeler. I think 5 damage is enough to justify a chomp block. It's not as if I can kill it with the Spikefield Hazard, so... Let's get you killed. Looks like they are going to get another Righteous Valkyrie. Doesn't trigger itself, though. And untap. Fading Hope. Okay. Let's go Unexpected Windfall. My Spikefield Hazard. There we go, we have found a Hullbreaker horror. I'm gonna play our island, and I think just hold up and divide by 0. Plus Fading Hope. And then maybe we can do some Windfalling as well. Once the Hullbreaker's down, then we've got all these Spikefield Hazards, which are basically Romans and bounce spells, so... not too much of a concern. So here, what I can do is Fading Hope the Valkyrie to stop the next trigger from working. Yeah, I guess divide by 0 is basically going to ban our opponent from playing cards. So that Valkyrie comes down and does nothing. And then the next one comes down, gets divided by 0... and also does nothing but draws cards, basically. It should be lovely. Okay. Oh, no. Oh, wait. Nope, I am right. I was going to say, it can't be countered, but divide by 0 is not a counter. Leah. Hello. It's the reason why you play this card. Alright. So, that gets set back. We get... I think just an Environmental Sciences. I'm burying our opponent in card advantage here, so... the answer certainly isn't Teachings. And we'll block and take 4. So we've got 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9 mana. So I can flash in Hullbreaker and then play 2 1-mana spells here, Fading Hopes. Let me just check whether or not doing Environmental Sciences makes sense. That would leave me with 1, 3, 5, 7, 8. So I'd get 1 extra spell. I think it's probably just not worth the effort, really, is it? Let's just pass. Try to sneaky flash in, kill the Voice of the Blessed, maybe. Or perhaps we're actually going to go with Righteous Valkyrie getting remanded. Just counter it on the stack with a Hullbreaker trigger while bouncing our opponent's other pieces on board. And then saving the environmental sciences for our next turn, once Hullbreaker is down, is just another bounce spell as well, but sorcery speed to make sure that the board is clear and we can keep attacking forever. So that one, it would turn Valkyrie on, but we are going to bounce Valkyrie anyway. So I think we don't care. Yeah, they get all of their little triggers. We've got enough, I think, to make sure that everything on this board disappears. They're probably going to all-attack me straight into this Hullbreaker horror. They're wondering why I haven't done anything, so they should be thinking about this card. It's a 7/8, though. And we're going to bounce Valkyrie with Fading Hope, which will bounce Hallowed Priest. So no more Valkyrie buffs, which means the voice is small enough to get eaten by Hullbreaker Horror. We'll bottom the land. And then I've got a Spitefield Hazard to counter the Valkyrie on the way down, perhaps. Something like that. This board's staying clear forever now, I think. So they can pyre into another Valkyrie if they want to. So I'm going to hit you in the face with my treasure, returning a spell you don't control to its owner's hand. And this is basically how we're going to win the game. Our opponent's going to play a thing and it's going to end up back in their hand for the rest of the game. And we'll do it enough that our opponent won't be left with anything on board. So we're going to be hitting our opponent for 10 each turn. So a 3-turn clock with a very hefty looking hand. And that's kind of like the idea of the deck. It's just to bury your opponent in card advantage and get to this point where nothing they do truly matters. Because we can literally interact with absolutely everything once horror is in play and ready to go. So yeah, pretty sweet. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. We've got Caesar Spoils, we don't have our Geist Channeler. Got our endgame Hullbreaker Horror here. I think I'm keeping this hand. It's certainly reliant on a third land drop, but we've got the iteration to find it. And, well, there's a third land drop. I guess I'm going to lead with Mountain here. See if the hazard's actually useful. Not entirely sure what the X1s are in this format that I am playing to, but let's go Hall of the Storm Giants past the turn. Looks like maybe a Grixis control deck, perhaps? Ah, Fearsome Whelp. Alright, so Grixis Dragons, and definitely happy about hitting this Whelp. So that could help our opponent cast a dragon next turn if we're not careful. Let's go with iteration here. We're looking for a land. We did get one. So I think I'm going to go... Do I want another Spitefield Hazard for the next Whelp, or is the Whelp running out of value at this point? Maybe Fading Hope's the card I want. So we'll go like hand, bottom, exile, and just have loads of lands. Leave Fading Hope open here, in case of a big nasty. Galazeth. Would leave our opponent with 1 mana to play with. So I'm gonna... If I'm gonna Fading Hope, next turn I'm gonna seize the spoils, create a treasure token, I'll have 2 mana open. Yeah, I think I'm just going to bounce it. Like, it gives our opponent an extra treasure, but it also basically makes them take a turn off. Which is totally fine by me. Let's go down 1 mountain here. Okay. Well, I think that's a good excuse to go Geist Channeler here. Make Unexpected Windfall 2 less, I guess. Or I could do Seize the Spoils, and then that allows me to do Divide by 0 as well. Yeah, maybe that's the correct play. I will need Divide by 0 open as well, though. Presumably. Alright, I'm going to go with Goldspan Dragon. 2 mana open. Untapped land would be nice. We did get one. So let's do Seize the Spoils, Hall of the Storm Giants. Divide by 0 open. Ready to go. This has changed now, so it's only when it attacks it creates a treasure, so I could use a Divide by 0 to bounce it back. But I am trying to accelerate into Hullbreaker Horror, which we're at 3, 4, 5, 6. So if I went with the Windfall, playing around Warrior's Disruption already, then I've got Horror next turn. I guess maybe I get rid of Windfall so that the Horror has Divide by 0 protection. Maybe the black here is for Infernal Grasps. Land and Iteration, okay. And we have a Panic Divide by 0 if we need it. If not, it's an end-stepped Hullbreaker Horror mana. Which Hullbreaker Horror can't be countered, so even if Galazeth comes down and gives our opponent all these treasures to hold up and counter magic, it's not going to matter. The removal side of things, though, definitely will. So they can play like Galazeth here and have 6 mana to play with. I could interact with it by dividing Goldspan by 0. Leaving our opponent with just 3 mana. Interestingly, using their treasures for green. Have they got Tiamat in their deck, maybe? Not sure I understand why they use their treasures there. Since Galazeth says you can turn your artifacts into mana rocks, for instance, and sorceries. Imareth, yes, I guess. Sure. I'm just going to play my land and say go here. So we've got Hullbreaker Horror. Oh no, I'm not. I'm going to Hullbreaker into Iteration then, I guess. Because I need to do some bouncing, because our opponent's got a lot of damage in play. So return that to their hand. Hand, bottom, exile, I guess. I'm not sure it really matters between the Geist Channeler and the land. And Horror has to live here, otherwise we don't. What have we got in our graveyard? Have we got a Fading Hope in there? We do. So we could play like Lear into Fading Hope. That's a double bounce. Presumably Imareth's getting in, so the ward will be gone. Yeah, they do have Tiamat in their deck. Alright. The float green made more sense for doing that then. So it is a full 5-colour Dragons deck. We're at 3, so we need to clear the board completely next turn. We can only do that if Horror is in play. Looks like maybe they're going Nadar. Okay. Nadar's less of a concern, because it's a ground creature that we can block. Scries to the bottom. And then, I guess, Galazeth mana remaining? Is that your plan? Or have you got Hullbreaker Horror answers? If you have, and if you're slow rolling... Yeah, it's a 2-for-1, but it's enough. Just 1 point of damage here, and the game is over. Yeah, we can't come back from this now. I mean, we can live by double dividing by 0, but it's... I feel at least it is just delaying the inevitable. I don't believe we've got a sideboard answer that wins from here. Mascot Exhibition creates blockers that don't kill any of the creatures. Leer, Fading Hopes and dies. Iteration. Just doesn't hit anything useful, so yeah. I guess on to the next game. Shame they had 2 Dragon's Fires, I guess. Otherwise, I think we win this game. On to the next one. Alrighty, we're on the play. We could hold up and turn 1 Spitefield Hazard, but we don't really need to. We've got some Expressive Iterations to find our land drops. Fading Hope to interact with the board. I think this hand's pretty good. It is lacking Geist Channeler and Caesar Spoils or Windfall. Geist Channeler plus a Treasure Generator. But maybe that's what Iteration's for. Alright, so are we going to go with Iteration here? I think we're not. I think we're just going to hold up and Fading Hope Spitefield Hazard. Because undo value just probably means mono green, right? There is that little pup that gives a perpetual kind of ETB effect. Which would be not ideal to Fading Hope here, but most likely you expect to see Werewolf Pack Leader. And to me, that is a pretty good bounce, because it's going to give us a scry. I'm going to set our opponent back a turn. That is basically a land drop. But I've already got one, and these are pretty useless anyway, so... If Iteration doesn't find me a land, that's where this Hazard's going to come into play. Fading Hope, not a bad one. So, Hall of the Storm Giants. Let's see, I want Windfall in hand, I think. And then Storm Giants in exile. It's a shame I can't hold open my Fading Hope or Hazard now. But I think that's what we're doing. So, hand, bottom, exile. Yeah, not the greatest hit on Iteration there. We've not had the greatest luck today. Admittedly, even when we're winning, it's been a bit of a slog to try and get what we want done. So there's Faceless Haven. This has changed. There's Tenacious Pup. Does stop them from playing their pack leader, but they're going to go with a Sculptor of Winter instead. Drew an Iteration. So this thing's a 3-3 now instead of a 4-3. With Alchemy. Good to know. We could reset the Sculptor with a Fading Hope, giving us a Scry and a little bit of a better looking Iteration. I think we'll just go for a blind Iteration, though. Okay, so... hand... bottom... exile... let's play the island... and I think we're bouncing Sculptor of Winter now, because it gives them an untap. It could lead them into some nasty 5-drops. Seize the Spoils... I've already got 2 Windfalls. I'm going to bottom that, because I'd much rather find a Geist Channeler. Yeah, and played a land drop for the turn, so we've just got this Hazard. It is a completely useless card in this matchup. It's basically just a... it's not completely useless. It is a cast trigger for Hullbreaker Horror. And, yeah, 1-mana answers with Hullbreaker Horror are pretty useful, but at the same time, I'm probably going to be discarding it to the Windfall on the following turn. I don't know how our opponent fares once I get the Hullbreaker Horror into play, though, because they've got a couple of big creatures, but they don't have 8 power of creatures necessarily, unless they get the Unnatural Growth enchantment. I can't remember its name. It's the one that doubles power and toughness on combat. And that's 5 mana, so keeping your opponent off that by bouncing their Sculptor here would be is definitely nice. Okay. Just going to choose to go to combat and hit me for 1. First blood. Engaged. I was going to say, how did the gain 1 life? But yeah, this just has you gain 1 life tacked onto it for some reason. It's a good card without it. But yeah, there's the Sculptor of Winter. All vanilla-like. So I'm going to start with an Unexpected Windfall, getting rid of the Spikefield Hazard. Got ourselves a Geist Channeler. So I'm at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I've got Hullbreaker Horror mana now. If I played Geist Channeler, turning Divide by 0 into a 1 mana spell, I would be using all my mana. I would be at 6, so a turn off. But 6 mana is Iteration into Windfall. So it's not the worst. I think I'll actually take that. Stops this Tenacious Pup and the Sculptor of Winter from hitting me, so not the end of the world. I think a 1 mana Divide would be nice if we ever come across Lear, or it helps protect the Hullbreaker Horror down the line as well. If we don't use it here, but I think we're using it here realistically. I'm not sure I know of a card that our opponent could play here that I don't just Divide by 0 as a tempo swing. But perhaps keeping the treasure is actually worthwhile. I mean, maybe it is. If I just let whatever happens here go. This cares about 6 power or greater attacking, so they're not going to get the pack leader buff. Does it have to attack with them as well? It has to attack with them. So yeah, that's the kind of card I'm concerned about. I think it's the kind of card I'm going to interact with. Let's just get that out of here. It's a little too much aggression for my tastes. So we'll put that back. We'll get... I've always found myself just wanting environmental sciences. Like, I guess teachings is okay, but... yeah, I'm just going to take the sciences. So very rarely have I noticed that I needed any of the other cards, but they are there in a pinch, I guess. So maybe another Tenacious Pup here. Blizzard Brawl. Okay, totally fine. I mean, Geist Channeler literally has an ETB and then it's a 1-3 with no text box, so that's fine. So I'm going to Iteration, Windfall. Just dump the sciences, I guess. It's good Windfall fodder as well. So 2 lands. A land is fine. 2 is pushing it. 3 is an insult. But yeah, I think this game is locked in now. They're going to play their Uvenwald Oddity. Presumably with the Werewolf Pack Leader. Following that, I'm going to be able to Hullbreaker Horror. 3, 6, 7 off of a land drop. And then I can Iteration just for a trigger if I don't draw anything good here. But a Fading Hope or a Spikefield Hazard would be nice. So they're leaving back Sculptor of Winter, definitely so they can play the Pack Leader. Makes sense. I'm going to go down to 13. Got to be careful how I block with Horror. Because of Blizzard Brawl, they could trade an Oddity off or something like that into a Blizzard Brawl. Or maybe just have Blizzard Brawls 2 and 3. There's plenty that could go wrong in that scenario. Does Geist Channeler change anything? So I've got 4 mana to play with to follow up. I think I might actually just go Seize the Spoils. Like right now. It would leave me with 2 mana. Then I can cast Geist Channeler, that bounces as well. I guess I could do Geist Channeler, bounce. Let's just bounce the Oddity. Bounce the most expensive, most powerful things, even though that has haste. Then we'll do Seize the Spoils, get rid of Hall of the Storm Giants, bounce the Pack Leader. Or maybe it's actually... Is it Sculptor of Winter? Since that pinches their mana as well. Nah, I'm just going to go Pack Leader. Another Geist Channeler. So I can't hold up an iteration here, so I might as well just play Geist Channeler, make the Windfall real cheap. Now bounce the Sculptor of Winter, and they're left with basically no board state that matters to me. Even if they manage to kill my Horror, I've now got a spare one. And I've got a spare one with a cheap instant speed spell to go with it. So there's Sculptor of Winter, there's Pack Leader, there's their turn. Yeah, they didn't draw a land, so they couldn't make a decent play here. And that's going to be game. Woo! This deck's sweet. I like this deck quite a lot. And yeah, it seems pretty good. It's at least reasonably good, and it can keep up with Mono Green Stomping. If you can do that, then I guess your deck belongs somewhere in the Rogue meta, along the tier 2 bracket at the very least. So yeah, this deck's a lot of fun. If you do kind of enjoy that kind of rampy combo finish style deck, then this deck is going to be one that will suit you down to the ground. It is certainly one that I've got a fair bit of joy out of. And maybe you've actually got all the cards already, because a lot of these are heavily competitive cards anyway. Hullbreaker Horror, Lear, all of that stuff. You might have even had like your previous turns list used to have Galvanic iterations as well, so contains a lot of cards here that you're probably going to use if you're not already using, so I recommend checking it out. And yeah, other than that though, guys, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more content like this in the future. If you want to help out the channel a little bit more, I have enabled the membership program as well, so for $3 a month, you can help out the channel. It will also give you access to an extra video from me every single week and a thank you message at the beginning of each video. So really appreciate anyone who does that, but it's completely optional, of course. Just making you all aware it exists now. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, guys, and glad to have you all back here on the channel, and glad to be back playing some Magic the Gathering. Take care, and peace.